Do you have the time to listen to me whine about nothing and everything all at once?
Hey everyone, I'm Aaron.
I'm Chad.
And welcome to the Screendaypodcast.
Yeah, right here in Blue Ridge Studios.
Blue Ridge Studios. Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah.
I'm feeling festive.
Very nice.
Festive.
I see you have the...
Isn't there a
Christmas
Seinfeld
flannel on?
about Festivus?
Yeah, Festivus for the rest of us. We're gonna have some feats of strength and airing of grievances here soon.
I'm not a fan of the airing of grievances.
Yeah, me too. I don't mind the feats of strength anymore either.
I suck at those. I used to not care about those, but now not so much.
Yeah, you gotta target the skinny kids.
Yeah, it's just getting old. It's getting old. So, welcome. Well, by the way, it's good to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Well, by the way, Merry Christmas.
Holy.
There you be.
Wow. We were just talking about putting one of these through a funnel. We should get that out.
We should knock that out.
See if
you can drive home.
If I should drive home with the other eye. Wow, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I didn't realize we were doing gifts today.
Well, this is payback for your dick maneuver of last year.
Oh.
Yeah. Where you gave us a gift in without telling us we were gifting. And then I feel like what I do, give you a box of tissue? Like,
no.
I didn't have a gift.
I don't even have a box of tissue.
You can go over there and just get a box
of the rest of my my moonshine drink.
A box of Cammy over there.
Nice.
A little PMI tape gifting.
Yeah.
Good times.
But
yeah, how you feeling? Are we doing good?
Doing good. Yeah, I'm on the mend.
I like it.
Yep. So everything was on the 90-day thing. If you can make it 90 days, you'll probably make it. So I'm almost there.
You're almost out of the woods?
Yeah, I'm like 78 days in. So
that's good news.
It is good news.
It's good to have you back, buddy.
Thank
it really
you.
Is. I'm glad we made it through that.
Yeah, me too. So, anyways.
So, it's been a while since we've done a podcast. So, to all the listeners out there, all 22 of you, yeah. Actually, I think we're up to 25 now. So,
are we?
No, I think we're up to 100. So,
really?
yeah,
well,
I think we're getting there. So, for all you listeners out there, our apologies for the hiatus, but I'm glad we're back, and I think our goal for 2025 is to
a little more consistency.
A little bit more consistent. Yeah, a little bit more consistent.
Yeah. So, well, it is nice to get in and do these. Had a nice meeting with somebody that had heard about us through the podcast, had some questions about some equipment and stuff, and it was just nice to hear that, somebody watched it.
Yeah.
So the guy's like, hey,
cool,
I saw you on this podcast. I'm like, you're the one?
I heard about you.
I heard about you. Thought you were figment of my imagination. But you're real.
What?
So, but
oh man,
yeah, it was nice. So,
how are the last 3 months gone? Like, so we're back. We're back to doing graphics, right?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, I had brain surgery in September, and
so it's minor,
very minor surgery. Yeah. But for all the times that my wife is like, "You don't have a brain in your head," she is wrong. So,
I got the scar to prove it.
Yeah, but so it's been a process to come back. You don't realize how much you use your brain every day.
Well, some of us more than others.
Well, yeah. So actually, it really impacted my ability to do creative artwork and stuff. So it's been a process to come back to that, and so it's been helpful that time has helped it.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that. And I would assume it's kind of like any muscle you don't exercise for a while. I would assume when you get back at it that it's you do it for an hour or so and it gets tiring and yeah.
So, but yeah, so things are coming along, and it's nice to be back in the swing of things and talking to people again, and So it's been good.
Just in time for the end of the season.
Yeah, just in time for the end of this thing. So, but it's been a weird year.
Yeah.
I don't know how other screen printers are out there, but it's been a kind of a roller coaster of events. It seems like you're either feast or famine throughout the year, and
there's no. So I will say we talked to a few screen printers.
yeah, I hope so.
Just a couple. And I will say that seems to be pretty consistent across the board. Is when I ask everybody about their year, the number one thing everybody says is unpredictable.
Yeah,
and
that's a good word.
Whether at the end, hey, were we up, were we down? I haven't really gotten a sense of that. I personally think, in general, I think we're way down in screen printing as a whole. I think I think
screen printing in general, screen printing itself is down, but decorated apparel is probably not down as much as you would think. I think there's been a little shift here to this DTF stuff.
Yeah, because it's new and it's exciting. But I will say, from a screen print supply standpoint, screen print's way down.
Yeah.
When I talk to other screen printers, screen print's way down.
Yeah.
But that's the weird thing is it's not those jobs aren't going DTF.
No.
They're just not there.
They're not there. Yeah.
So,
so the economy of this thing, I think I've shared with people that I have a background in finance, and election years are hard on businesses. Screen printing is a marketing expense in a lot of companies, and they cut back on marketing when they're uncertain about the economy and where it's going to go. And there definitely was some pullback in the last 18 months about where we were going, how the Fed funds rate were being handled, things like that. And I think that has scared businesses, which has impacted other industries, namely ours.
Oh, for sure. And I think, at least from my point of view, is every single time we've had a slow year, the following year is absolutely freaking screaming.
Yep.
So, which gives me good hope for next year, right? As we head into 2025, I don't eat the words, but I'm kind of predicting that.
You're optimistic?
I'm very optimistic about 2025.
Honestly, when you go back and look at it, 2020, not a great year. COVID killed it, right?
Yep.
But also an election year. Also uncertainty about economics, and
2021
screaming hot, and it went all the way into 22.
Yep.
Then, the next couple of years, they weren't bad, but they just weren't screaming hot like the other 2 years were.
Yep.
And honestly, I think if we go back and look at some of these cycles about spending and stuff like that with businesses, you'll see that election years are down, post-election years are good.
Yep.
Midterm years not so great.
Yeah.
Not as
mediocre.
great.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we come back to the election year. So that's just my nerdery take on it. So, and then when you talk about local market, of course, didn't help that Hurricane Helene and all those. I mean, we had a terrible fourth quarter of events, or leading up to the fourth quarter, terrible thing of events. So anything local here has been even more impacted by it. So I'm optimistic that some of those people get some help. Things get back reconstructed, and people get back to work, and things start to normalize.
Yeah, even, most people don't even think about it. If I'm shipping something west,
it just added 20% to your cost because I got to go around.
Yeah, I got to go around now. So, our customers who are in, not Chattanooga, but are in Knoxville.
Yeah.
They're used to a one-day ship.
Yep, it's 2 days.
Now it's a 2-day ship. And if you're another customer of mine, it's I don't know when I'm going to get it shipped. So it's and it, just from us in regards to a support standpoint, how the hell do I get there?
Right.
So I would, because normally, we would just head out to Knoxville. I'd be there in 3-4 hours, and I'd spend a couple of days there, and we'd head back. Well, I can't do that anymore. Now it's a 2-day trip just to get to Knoxville, or just a really long day. You know what I mean? It just becomes, instead of a 2 to 3 day affair, now it's minimum a week.
A week, yeah.
And so I will look forward to when hopefully they have the 40.
What is that? Fourth quarter of 28? Is that what they're estimating?
No, they actually said they're supposed to have one lane in each direction. Open by mid-January.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, they have some stuff on the mend. We went to Knoxville for one of those conferences in Pigeon Forge area, and they're rerouting semis onto to 26 and parts of 40, but they're not letting all traffic on there, so they're trying to help semis and stuff like that as well. So
right.
I think they're probably closer than they estimate, but
either way, it'll be good.
Yeah, I don't want to be the guinea pig going into the tunnel either.
No. No one wants to be that guy.
You sure it's safe?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Me and Cousin Eddie fixed it.
In like 3 weeks. They said it would take us 3 years. We did it in 3 weeks.
Yeah. We got extra duct tape.
I don't know what happened. It's like putting anything else together. If it doesn't come with instructions, you always end up with extra screws.
Yeah.
Without fail. So I will say, for us, like I said, on the screen print side, it's been really slow. On the
Honestly,
DTF
I think
side,
we're going to find out today that there's a reason behind some of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think DTF is cut into screen printing a little bit, especially this year. There's been enough advancement in DTF that screen printers are like, no, I'd rather just DTF it.
No, I think there's a lot of things that are leading to that. We're looking at skilled labor shortages where, trying to find someone who's skilled enough to actually run a screen print or a screen press is getting harder and harder to find. The costs are up there. Okay, well, now I can do, 100 DTF prints and
I can have a monkey do it.
Yeah. So anyway, it'll be interesting. I'm really excited to talk to our guest. He's got a phenomenal story. Some kid out of school.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say it just kind of warms the heart to hear a kid who's excited about life and he's got his future ahead of him. And here's a kid who's an entrepreneur who already started his DTF business when he was in school.
Good for him.
So
yeah, I'm excited to hear his story. So I'll tell you what, let's get him in here.
All right, let's do it.
Awesome.
All right. So on our podcast today, we have Ashton. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm fantastic.
Ashton, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a wholesale direct-to-film printer out of Charlotte, North Carolina. College student before that, or kind of a mix of the two, but that's been the two big milestones, I think, of my 20s. So
what's the name of your company?
Print Magic Transfers. I don't think I could get any cornier than that, but
Oh, I think you could.
Oh no,
you think so?
Yeah.
We can help you out
if you want.
Yeah. I was like,
if you weren't corny, we can come up with a few good
yeah.
ideas.
I thought it had a good ring to it, but I think I have a lot of dad jokes that are just I'm using them now before I actually get to that point in my life, so I got to kind of scale back sometimes.
So you're working on your dad jokes beforehand.
Exactly.
Nice.
It's prep, basically. Prep.
Dude, there is no prep.
Yeah,
There's no way.
they come natural. It's
just it really does.
Well, that's good to know because they already flow now. The corniness just exudes out of me sometimes. So the puns and the print magic and thinking it was like catchy, like magical transfers, like that was my whole.
And you're gonna have like a Disney one?
Yeah, I honestly wanted to, but I don't want to get sued. So I was like,
actually, it was more Harry Potter. He was just talking about that.
Here's the thing.
true.
To be honest with you, are you really pushing the envelope enough unless you do get sued?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
that's when you know you're successful.
Yeah.
is when you're big enough that someone's willing to sue you.
Yeah, well, doing that whole, like, the Disney intro, they do the wand and make the Disney ears. I wanted to do that in, like, my own funny way, but I was like, that's too much copyright infringement. I'm good. I've seen people come after, like, Disney would come after them, so I was like,
Actually, there's a screen printer
oh, man.
in California, and his legit name is Connor Disney.
Oh, really? Have they tried to come after him after that? Or?
How are you going to do it? It's his own last name.
That's true.
So
yeah, that's true.
It's Disney screen print.
Yeah.
You can call it a play on words, but it's really not because that's
his name. So. That is his name. But yeah, that's funny. But no, print magic transfers. My whole take on that was just to have a hot peel, and thanks to your paper, it's a 5-second peel now. So it really pushes my magical effect of like, whoa, this comes off right after pressing.
Like magic.
Exactly.
Nice.
That was that's the whole part of it.
Puns aplenty.
Yes, exactly.
Nice. So I hear some congratulations are in order. You just graduated from college.
Sometimes I don't know how, but after a long extra year of school, I probably blame having a business and trying to be a college student. But DTF kind of saved my life in a weird way. So I just kind of graduated to, I was right there at my last semester, and I just needed to kind of get a few things in order. So that's
Okay, so what'd you graduate in?
I graduated with a degree in computer science with a concentration in AI, game, and robotics. So
that transfers well, I think, to screen print and to
sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, you think I'd say like graphic design or something like that, and that's what I originally wanted to do, but I was trying to kind of make my degree worth something. So worst case scenario, if DTF fails, I will either be DTF or
a lot of graphic design is going to be AI in the near future.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the begging question is, what does a starving student do getting into, let alone DTF? How did you get into this?
Oh man, this is the sore spot. I actually knew somebody that was doing it, and I was like in between jobs. I had an internship, and I had to quit my job before that to take the internship, and I ended up thankfully landing a job with that company. But for like a good couple of months, I didn't have a job, and I was doing like freelance website design and cold calling people to do websites and hosting. And I have a couple clients that I actually have like retained from like monthly hosting, but I was literally like unable to pay my rent like for a couple months. So I had, well, obviously I paid it, but I had to figure out what to do. And I decided to just do the deep dive into DTF, and that's why.
Dude, no one just decides to deep dive into DTF. So
yeah,
especially as a junior in college,
it's more of a cannonball.
Yeah,
yeah. I kind of just launched myself into it. It was no going back at that point. I was like, I'm either
cannonball. Come on.
So no, but in all seriousness though, so as a junior in college,
yeah,
you're a broke college student.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go more broke by actually going in debt to buy a DTF printer? And what made you think you would be successful at it?
I didn't really think I was going to be successful at it because the people that I knew that did it, they had money from their own companies to kind of pour into their DTF business. But I think I just was really like hungry to make it work. And I cold called my butt off to like really make it possible, like clockwork. I've probably called over like 1,000 people back then when I was, that died down now, and I probably have to start doing that again. But I saw how much money they were making, and I was like, man, like I'm like struggling to go get a beer at Skip Town. So I'm like, maybe I should really, how far worse could I get from that point? So I just was like, we're going to do it. I had the ability to get, financing, and I just did it. So I was just basically going on a Hail Mary toss out for that. So thankfully everything kind of worked out for me, but it was really just the hard work, I guess.
Decide you're going to get into the wholesale aspect of it instead of the retail, because that's where it seems like the money looks like it is.
Well, yeah. So when I look and you see like all these big companies, they have massive amounts of money to pour into just marketing on Google and advertising. And I was like, I can't just call regular people like, hey, do you need DTF transfers for your son's football game or for your cricket machine that you don't want to do anymore? Like, So I was like, what's the next step up from that? And that's screen printers. So I'm like, people that actually need DTF transfers on a consistent basis. I figured that was some sort of like steady income to kind of.
I got to tell you, I think you kind of hit on something. If we get a list of cricket owners.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
cricket moms.
I know. I want to say I feel like they probably own a big credit to the DTF industry, honestly, because I mean, who wants to weed, honestly? And that's a big selling point that every DTF company uses. Scrap the weeding, like let's 5 seconds, and you can have an image with 5 colors, and not have to do all that placement. And so I just really figured it was less artwork hassle, and it was a way for me to get involved in screen printing without actually screen printing at the point. So. And screen printers are like the coolest fucking people that I've ever kind of talked to. Everyone is so nice and like.
He's talking about me.
Not me.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, like, going from like corporate to like screen printing, you really just do get a lot of like genuine people. I think that's it's kind of refreshing and kind of makes you have faith in the world again a little bit. Of course you get your couple that kind of knock you off. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. But I think that's just kind of everybody.
But that's in every industry.
Exactly.
Right? You're gonna have the not user friendly customers, and that's
It is kind of an authentic industry. I think people are very artistic and expressional, and we met at Long Beach. We were talking about that earlier, and honestly, I went to Long Beach. I was the only person there without a tattoo.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you walk by, and I mean,
no, we can fix that.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, tonight. I'm sure you get a spot.
So
just get Blue Ridge
right across
the chest.
Like, if you're willing to get like a neck Blue Ridge tattoo, I'll pay for that. Yeah, we're good.
I'm going on that
I'll
too.
cover it.
Yeah, I'm good.
Or on top of your head too. That might be a good one.
Well, at least I could grow the hair out again.
Yeah.
Or you could do like an airbender tattoo. That would be
cool. My God, please don't do that. I was like, please don't do that. The blue arrow just right down your head.
Yeah, right down.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I might have to commit to going bald for that. That actually is pretty sick, like permanent Halloween costume.
Think of the money you'll save on
Halloween. What made you get the skull tattoo?
Cheap Halloween.
Exactly.
Costume.
Yeah. Don't have to spend $50 in a panic.
But yeah, I do agree with you in the fact that that's actually what's attracted me to this industry, and why I'm attracted to this industry, and why I love this industry is it really. I want to say there's a little bit of the changing of the guard too. The old curmudgeony screen printers are gone.
They kind of, sort of.
Well, for the most part, they are. I mean, the ones that are left are on their way out. But in the new era of screen printer, which is, I would say, pretty much anybody who's under 50.
Yeah.
Everybody is really, community oriented, where we all recognize that, hey, there's enough business to go around. I don't need to be a dick. You know what I mean? It's just reality. Yeah. And when you go in, you really, at least for me, I get to go in and we have very honest conversations about just about everything. And you'll go in talking about one thing, come out talking about another. And, and the reality of it is then you see these guys at trade shows and we're all hanging out. And that was one of the coolest thing about Long Beach is, we're almost like a swarm of screen printers, and we'll take over one bar. And then that bar has, I'm serious. Like,
it's like a bar crawl
you'll get
for
like
screen
300.
printers.
Yeah, you'll get like 300 screen printers, and typically, a lot of it's like the shirt show crew of all the people who follow the shirt show, and a lot of those followers. And to be honest with you, Andy and Dylan are just two really cool cats, and it's just then everything seems to evolve from there, and it's just all these people going around, and you're chatting with other screen printers, and no one cares.
Yeah,
it's just. Everyone's just chatting. If you're talking about graphics, someone will bring up a graphics conversation. All of a sudden, you're striking up a graphics conversation with someone. Another screen printer will overhear you. Hey, I ran into that problem too, and this is how I fixed it.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a very attractive industry just in regards to a relationship standpoint.
So there's a pretty heavy line still of people that are willing to explore new ideas and new concepts in screen printing, and the people are like, I've been doing it this way since 1985.
Yeah,
there's a hard line on it.
Mm-hmm.
We do DTS as well, so of course we're all talking to some of the other screen printers in the area, and the first thing that we get from some of them is like, "Oh, I don't do DTS."
Yeah,
those
exactly.
are terrible. You know, they're
I'm a screen
junk.
printer.
I'm a screen printer. I know how to screen print.
I don't want that heat press crap. That's what I heard a lot.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, you only have 4 colors or 4 heads.
Yep.
You know, how are you going to get an 8-color job done?
Yeah, exactly.
And we talk people down to 4 colors. You know, well, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You know, so the whole dilemma on it is that they're not even open to it, whether it's better or good or, you know, has its place. They're not even open to it. And one of the things I think really did that to some of these people was direct to garment.
Oh, it hardened some people.
You think so?
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I've heard there's a lot of negatives to DTG, like washing away, like after one wash.
That's what I'm saying, is that there's so many negatives about DTG.
And if they had done that before, and the amount of money that they pissed away
on that
DTG,
equipment and everything,
and it never worked, and there's just sour grapes in regards to that. So I think a lot of people, as you're saying, I think a lot of people see it as the same thing. Like, here we go again. It's just next DT. It's just the next boat anchor, right? Nothing's going to replace.
Changing the last letter.
Screen print's been here for 100 years. It's not going anywhere, right? It's
Well, to be honest with you, screen printing is going away.
You think so?
To some extent, we've explored some of these things in that the standard screen print stuff, the 3-color job or 2-color job, that's going to be out there forever because you can still turn those over quickly enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
The real thing is that a lot of screen printers aren't doing the art anymore. So they're getting Fiverr and whoever else to do the art.
Canva.
Canva.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Please don't mention Canva.
Canvas.
Oh my goodness.
We'll have to bring that up again.
It's good and bad, but anyway.
Yeah.
So they don't know how to separate art even.
That's crazy that screen printers don't know how to separate artwork.
And the spot color stuff, the easy stuff, I mean, anybody can do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you teach an 8th grader to do it. But to get photorealistic stuff or, high color graphic stuff, you really have to know how to separate art. And you can't tell you how many people are like, I don't even do that.
You just pass it up, or
they talk them down to fewer colors, or they talk different designs, or we could, that's the skill they're getting, is getting better at talking people out of full color graphics rather than more.
And I feel like some clients would probably walk away, but I mean, if you're getting a bunch of people that don't know how to do that, it's interesting too, because I have a couple clients that are kind of unfamiliar with the artwork, even just for DTF, and just having high quality like vector 300 DPI images, and it's interesting because I will get Canva submissions, and sometimes Canva Pro you can get SVGs, but even then, it's like with background removal on Canva, you can get a kind of like a box shadow around it when printing. So,
and the image they send you is this big.
Yep, exactly.
And they want it to be 11 by 11.
Exactly. And it's like you got to pay for Canva Pro or don't use Canva at all. But it's really interesting the whole how I guess convenience has really been a killer for screen printing, I think, because people want shirts like that.
Yep.
And I feel like an automatic press on screen printing, I feel like you have to have a high job, to be like a large quantity to really make that.
Well, it has to be an event, right?
Yeah.
So it's not going to. So I think you're going to start seeing some separation of what goes screen print versus what doesn't, based upon the market, right?
Absolutely.
So now, if I'm a corporate client, right, and let's just say I'm local carrier, right? Carriers are local corporation here. So if I'm carrier and I want some corporate shirts, I'm not in an immediate need for that.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's an event, and if a corporate event is well planned out in advance, or a church camp is planned way out in advance. Okay, for those things, and we're ordering 400 to 500 shirts or more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's always going to be screen printed.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Even if it's high color, it's always going to be screen printed. It's just going to go to a screen printer who actually knows how to do that.
Yeah.
Where I think the DTF plays more into it is
24 shirts.
Yeah. 24 shirts.
You think that's the threshold?
No, it's all the stuff that should never have been on an auto in the first place, right?
It's all the stuff that the auto people were turning down because it wasn't worth their time to do 24 shirts.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, so I feel like DTF, and that's what I told a lot of like people I would cold call. It's just another tool in your toolbox. You know, you don't have to turn away the last minute jobs or 24 shirts or whatever the case may be. You may want to turn the last minute jobs down because of the headache it may cause you, but at least you have the option to take extra work. So,
let's go back a little bit. So let's go back to school. Right. So how did you manage DTF printing and school and getting good enough grades to actually graduate? Because I would have thought DTF would have just.
Where did you do it out of?
Oh my God, a garage. I had to cross some lines of getting electricians to install things in the garage at my apartment. So. Sorry if they're listening to this, but
So let me get this straight. You were not even in a house. You were in an apartment, an apartment garage, which I'm sure they were so aware of the electricians going into your garage.
Yeah, probably. I didn't get any, I didn't get any, slack about it or, any pushback, but I definitely probably wasn't supposed to be doing that. But I kind of was at a point of I have this thing here and I need to figure out how to get 240 volts to make it work. So
somewhere Tim the Toolman Taylor is grunting like,
I got that. Yeah.
Yes.
And he's going, who's Tim the
I totally am. And I was just like, sure. But yeah, I really was struggling, honestly.
Monocle.
Exactly. I don't even know what that is. I was really struggling in college, honestly, because at that point I was kind of worried about having a roof over my head rather than my grades. So I really had, thankfully, a lot of my professors were understanding and they allowed me to get incomplete grades to be able to just kind of figure my thing out. But the classes I did complete, I really had to, literally work 9 to 5 and then stay up into the morning and then kind of just repeat that cycle of not sleeping. Yeah, it was a sacrifice I had to make for months until I was like, it's just a couple more months. And that was what I kept telling myself until I was done. So it was really hard. And the cold calling, you can't really cold call people at 10 o'clock at night. I would have preferred to.
I mean, you can. I don't know if they'll be very receptive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But, you have a window of time where you can really cold call people. And it's, school obviously is at a certain hour of time. You do get some night classes, but I really kind of sacrificed a lot of my education and my life to really get this business off the ground because I didn't have the financial power just to pay thousands in Google ads and to, have SEO done and all those types of things. And it was just
the old-fashioned way.
I did it the old-fashioned way, and cold calling, if you're effective at it, still works.
I would agree.
So,
and I think people appreciate it.
Yeah. And a lot of the conversations kind of leeway into things that aren't even about, transfers or screen printing. It ends up just, kind of talking. And I've ended up kind of forming a lot of relationships with people that I wasn't even kind of expecting. And I think my age kind of gave me an advantage because they hear me and they're like, how old are you? And what are you doing? And of course, I'm sure no one knew at the time I was doing it out of an apartment garage, but, I don't think it really mattered because it was about the service that I offered and what I was willing to do for my clients. So I think as long as you have a good product, it doesn't matter where you're doing it from and how you're doing it. It's just if you can be consistent and reliable, that's the only thing that really matters. So
what was the turning point for you? When did it take off to where?
Oh man. Honestly, I was coming in here and he'd tell me all the time, why aren't you buying more rolls and blah, 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 blah. Why don't you have inventory? And I was like, what will you do? I am barely making ends meet here, but now I can come in here and kind of, I'll buy extra and, have kind of stock. But it
Really? So are we done with the, hey, can you leave some ink outside?
Definitely not. Well,
Dude, I didn't think too far ahead of this. I just got a big job. Can you leave some inks outside the door?
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes, thankfully, you get those big jobs that you're not expecting to kind of come on your door, and then you're like, oh, well, I'm probably going to need some backups for my backups. So that situation so happens. I got to do better about inventory management. But, you know, I think the turning point really kind of was maybe at the 6-month point for me, and then things really started kicking up into numbers that I wasn't expecting to see. And it's really kind of just has been growing consistently. But I definitely probably need to get back on cold calling and kind of doing that outreach and like follow up to my, you know, customers that haven't ordered in a while. So it's hard kind of managing everything. You know, I definitely probably need to find a way to scale and grow. But I think from my age and what I came from, I think I haven't done too bad. So,
So do you do? Go ahead.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, clearly.
So when you said when you came from, what do you?
Well, I honestly wasn't even sure if it was going to work. You know, I thought I was going to, you know, be bankrupt or something with a giant DTF printer in a garage, and you know,
Welcome to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, you know, when your gut tells you to take a leap of faith on yourself, sometimes you just kind of have to go for it. And I think from where I am into now being able to like lead a comfortable life and get some extra animals, I think I'm in an okay spot. So
You may have the world's largest dog.
I know. I wish he was bigger, but he is.
Dude, how he doesn't even fit in the back of your car.
No,
he's a bigger dog.
For preference, I drive a Volkswagen Golf, so it really looks like a clown car, and he likes to sit in the front seat, so people just look over and see a giant dog, like literally turn his head and like look at them, like, yeah, what's the problem?
What kind of dog?
Greater Swiss Mountain Dog, so like
Nice.
Blue on steroids, basically.
Right.
So yeah,
It's not blue on steroids, dude. That is it's bigger than a Saint Bernard.
no, actually, they're smaller than the Saint Bernards.
No, your dog.
Oh well, I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Your dog's bigger
But the
than
breed
Saint
standard normally is a little smaller than the Saint Bernard. But yeah, Finn is a massive baby that doesn't know how big he is, and I think those are like my dog kids that I was like, I got to be able to feed you guys somehow, especially Finn eating me out of house and home. So
If Nicole was listening.
Yeah,
oh,
I got a big dog too.
oh really? Yeah. What type of dog do you have?
I have a Cane Corso.
Ah,
120
that's even big.
pounds.
Oh, is he a puppy or is she a puppy?
No.
Okay, it's full grown.
Full grown.
Yeah.
Its parents were dog fighters, and she was rescued because they arrested the dog fighting ring
Oh man.
at 2 days old. So they fed her with an eyedropper and a bottle.
Wow.
So she doesn't even know how to be a dog. She thinks she's a lap dog, 120
Yeah.
pounds.
She's like, I've been babying my
Yeah.
whole life from the beginning. What are you doing here?
The old 120-pound lap dog.
She eats people food, no dog food. She's that spoiled.
I thought about doing that for my dogs, and it got to too much. Yeah, I was like,
It's actually cheaper.
you do like the raw diet, or you do like actual?
I just do rice and beans and
Wow,
meat scraps, and
wow.
they eat good.
Probably is cheaper.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say
Expensive.
it
I mean,
is.
it is.
It's ridiculous, but
We have two 20-pound bag of rice and $20 worth of other groceries. Feeds them for a month.
wow.
So, anyways,
Anyway.
I know. I would talk about dogs for this entire podcast if you put me up to it.
Yeah, I think we all could.
Yeah,
We've all got a special
yeah.
affinity for dogs.
yeah,
I should probably just make my dog my mascot, because anytime people see him, they're just like, "What is that?" And I'm like, let me tell you." And then leeway into DTF transfers. But
No. Speaking of dogs,
yeah,
right? So, and speaking of the creativity side of you,
yeah.
So Rebecca had actually stated that you actually make
Oh man,
dog-friendly, like cakes,
yeah. I should
like a side hustle, like.
Oh man, yeah. So
Like, is this a part on your website? Like, you can go and order.
I know I should, honestly, with the amount of traffic that I'm getting now. I also started a dog treat company in college my freshman year, and I'd actually go to like markets, and I would sell them. And the whole slogan that I had was dog treats you're tempted to eat. So I would go to the Armored Cattle lot in Charlotte, and there'd be a bunch of drunk guys like seeing these like mini apple dog pies that would just open them and then eat them. And I'm like, okay, well that's like $10. So like, but I guess I've had a lot of entrepreneurial spouts or ventures, and I think DTF is probably the only one that stuck. The dog treats was doing okay, but the scale and like the registration and everything you need to have per state that you sold in was just ridiculous. So I was just like, and it took too much time to bake and like, let them cook at 200 and a low heat to actually allow them to dehydrate. So I was just like, I got to think of something faster. And I don't think many people want to pay like $12 for a bag of natural organic dog treats. So
you'd be surprised.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get the people around Uptown Charlotte, but I was like, the amount of bags of dog treats I'd have to sell to kind of be able to have a living and be comfortable, it just wasn't working. So I kind of had to scrap that. And I'll get some customers that I'll still bake dog treats for, like cakes, but it's very limited because it was like way too time consuming. And I don't think people expected me to be like baking dog treats. So I was just like, I can't fully disappoint my family and be a dog treat baker and, just do that. But
so what's on the horizons for Print Magic and you? I mean, what do you
man,
where do you see this going?
So right now I'm actually a double agent. I joke. I work full time at a different company. So I think right now
They obviously are not going to listen to this podcast.
I know. I hope so. I hope not. So right now I'm looking into really just using this Christmas break to kind of reorganize and restructure and potentially add some more equipment in there and, potentially look into like venturing into actually doing a t-shirt creation, like the final product. So I'm looking into ways to kind of expand and, make sure I'm more organized. That way, when we're growing, we're not also just like falling in because I can't handle more volume of customers and keep my, product consistent. So I think that's kind of my biggest, thing that I kind of want to work on is just kind of expanding and venturing into new territories in case DTF would ever, I feel like DTF will have its highs and lows and that, it may fall. So my goal is just to really kind of get as much as I can out of it and, use that to kind of fund the next venture or stay doing this for, the rest of my life and be a happy, merry printer because honestly, it's stressful, but
That doesn't exist.
No.
I know.
Those words don't exist.
I was trying to play into the Christmas, but yeah, I joked that I love what I do, but it is stressful. So,
Dude, it's called being an entrepreneur, man. It's always going to be stressful.
Yeah.
Being a business owner is stressful. That's
Yeah.
just part of the gig.
yeah, but I guess when did you guys decide to take that plunge and do your business full time? Like, when did you know it was your time to kind of say goodbye to your other job that you felt like you had steering wheel or training wheels for?
I think Aaron and I can both say we've lived a similar life. We started something early and often, and it's evolved, and it took us down a path, and it took us down another path, and it took us down another path, and this is the path we're on.
Wow.
And I've done everything from 401k plan management to I had a cheesecake bakery.
That is the way to my heart. Oh, you mentioned as cheesecake. Do you still do that?
I don't right now, but I mean,
Well, for
I know
like
the- I know
friends
the-
and
yeah,
family.
I know the recipe. So
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
why'd you stop doing
You made us a
that?
pistachio one. Oh, God, that was awesome.
Man.
That was a good cheese.
honestly, the cheesecake story is kind of weird. I was doing 401k stuff, and I retired because I got divorced, and my assistant called me and said, "Hey, my baker forgot to make my wedding cake. Can you help me out?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know how to decorate cakes, but I can make cheesecake, which is better. I can tie a ribbon." So I did her wedding. Well, her sister was getting married in 4 months, and she's like, "Can you do mine?" And I was like, "Sure." Then her roommate from college asked me to do hers, and next thing you know, I'm in the cheesecake business.
Wow. It was a snowball effect, basically.
Yeah, I'm not the guy to deal with brides or mothers on their wedding
Yeah,
day.
I bet.
So someone's about to get choked that way. So I had to get out of that business. And,
Man.
but yeah, the thing is, you'll find this anything that you start doing it because you love it, right?
Yeah.
And once you put monetary gain to it, it becomes a job. Becomes a job. And same is true with this. I mean, like I like doing art. I like that part of it. And then, once you put monetary stuff to it, now it's a job. You got to deal with customers and their complaints and their lack of knowledge and, their cousins, best friends, plumbers, sisters, nieces, roommate knows how to print better than you do. And one time I saw him print it this way, and so that's always the case with being an entrepreneur. So.
It's really, I guess, at least for me, it's really just what drives you, right? So, is it really work if you enjoy what you do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least for me, how I started this business was just there was a calling. I saw a serious need in the industry, and
so sell 110 screens?
Yeah. Not enough 110 screens in the world. Not enough. So
that's funny stuff. If only everybody knew how funny that was.
I know. Anyway, so the reality of it is at least for me is I, just like Chad is had some, lost some, had some, sold some. Like it's once you've got that entrepreneurial spirit in you, it's hard to contain, especially if it's something you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And I will say for employers, it's tough to employ someone who's got an entrepreneurial spirit because it's hard to tell them to not do something because they know what they're doing, right? And they're going to go be entrepreneurs. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Right? So as an employer, you either have to let them go do it.
There's a level of curiosity that goes with being a business owner. You're seeking out new information, new ideas. And every corporation I've worked for is like, oh, we've been doing it this way for 60 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, we got indoor plumbing now too. So,
I know, right? Yeah.
So that takes me back to, I think sales, if you're working for somebody, I think sales is very entrepreneurial.
Yeah. Because you're not capped, right?
Well, it's not that you're not just capped. It's that, a good salesperson, especially a good outside salesperson, realizes you're not, you are working for that company, but you're not. It's your business.
Yeah.
And it's your...
It rises and falls with you.
It rises and falls with me, right? However much we sell or how I don't sell has everything to do with me. Mm-hmm. I am my own, captain, right? It's not my boss. As an outside salesperson, if you're waiting for your boss to tell you what you need to do,
or your job, right?
So even when I got into management, my old saying is how you know you're safe with me is when I don't say anything. The day I have to start managing you, is the day you might want to start looking for a new job.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So because you don't have what it takes, you're not self-driven. You know what I mean? Where I think entrepreneurs are very self-driven people. So. Is it a risk to start something new? Absolutely. But again, I would have done this. Now, Rebecca would think otherwise, but to be honest with you,
if I could make sure she was not there,
it's it's what you're called to do is literally when you're getting into it. Creating a business plan is secondary. It's literally you're being so called to do it, and you feel such a tug to go do it that it's like, well, if I make money or not, it doesn't matter. This is my calling, right? This is what I need to do because I enjoy doing it. And I can honestly say I wake up every day, and I'm excited to do what I'm going to do that day. Right? It's not.
You don't dread it.
Well, I will say when you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you've been with an employer long enough, you do start getting that. You start dreading going to work because someone's putting reins on you.
Yeah.
And true entrepreneurs are unbridled. We don't want reins. We want, we're going to go that way. That's the way we're going to go. Right.
Yeah.
And we're always looking for, at least for me, I'm always looking for, okay, how can I serve the community and our customers better? How can I help Chad make more money tomorrow?
Yeah.
Or
absolutely.
next year? Like, what is out there what process, how do I improve processes? So I'm always looking at process improvement. I'm always looking at product improvement. I'm always looking at, supply improvement. What is going to help my customer make more money, and how can I advise them better? You know what I mean? And I think Chad would say that about his own customers, right? Is when he looks at art, how do I make this better? And he's not doing it because it's going to make him more money. He's doing it, it's probably the same reason I do it, is because it makes me feel good.
Yeah,
right? It makes me feel good to make other people happy.
Yeah, it's your name on it, right? So if I print a stick figure on someone's shirt and it looks like crap, they're like, oh, Chad prints crap.
Yeah, Chad did that.
Yeah, it's all about having pride in what you do.
Yeah. But if I take their art, their concept, and create art, a lot of times you're like, man, this is amazing. I can't tell you the amount of free art we've given away by doing some of that stuff. And not free shirts, but the art, the time to
to retrace,
And I don't know. I like to think that that'll come back. It hasn't yet.
Your good deed will come back eventually.
Yes.
It'll.
Yeah.
But, going back to DTF, is, like, if it goes away. Well, here's what I'd like to say about that is, A, I don't ever see it going away for two reasons. It ain't DTG. And the reason it ain't DTG is I was never ever in the DTG camp.
Yeah.
Because no one could show me, no one could pencil it out how I'm going to make money producing a shirt every 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
I can't, and then, you just got to buy more of them. Okay, cool. So now I got to drop. So how am I going to, if I drop $150,000 or I drop $30,000, but I'm still only doing a shirt every 2.5 minutes, where's my ROI? I never bought that. It never penciled out.
Yeah, it never made sense.
Never made sense.
You have to have so many machines that it takes 2.5 minutes to load them all.
And the pre-treatment too.
And take them all.
Yeah.
If you don't do the steps right for DTG, I guess.
And pre-treatment sucked because it worked on some shirts, not on others. And so anyway,
anything Heathered was messed up because it didn't.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So where DTF, if I look at all other print technologies or printing industries, all of them have gone digital.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that they've gotten rid of the traditional. So if we look at offset printing, are there still offset presses? Yeah, but they're for the big, huge, ginormous runs, right? Anything that's, I need 100 or 150. Well, before the offset industry went digital, I was trying to figure out how I was going to do 100 to 150 pieces on an offset press. It sucked, but that's the only way you were going to get that work done. So you did it. You didn't make a lot of money, but you did it anyway, right? Where now even, your offset printing houses will go, okay, 150 pieces. Sure. We'll do that digitally.
Yeah.
And then, you've got a 500 piece run. Okay. We'll throw that on the offset press. Or you've got a 3,000 piece run. Okay. We'll throw that on the offset press. We're not going to do that digitally. We're going to do that offset. Did it hurt the offset industry? It only hurt those that did not want to, were offset only.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They don't want to grow with the changes.
They don't want to grow with the changes. So when you start seeing how offset's done today, every single offset printer has a digital press. In fact, they have probably more than one. Do I think screen printing is going to go the same way? Sure. This is the only printing technology that hadn't gone digital yet.
Yeah.
So, I see it. I do see it going digital. Do I see it negatively impacting screen printing? No, I think it's going to go the same way offset did, where, the high volume stuff is going to go screen. Stuff that's, high color, low volume, or just really high color that no one really wants to separate. Okay, cool. That'll go, DTF. I think it's just another tool in your toolbox.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to say no to a customer.
So the thing is that there's no simple solution for all aspects of this. How do you get neon on your DT?
That is a very hard thing and probably impossible. I don't know if you guys have ever figured out a solution, but
there's not really. So is it coming?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing is DTF is very much at its infancy, right? So I think what you're seeing even today, I probably get 1 to 2 film samples a week. Hey, try this, try this, try this, try this. Hey, our film's better than these guys, right?
Yeah.
And through those samples, you start to see how it's evolving, right? And you watch within 2 years, you will not be able to tell hand wise the difference between DTF and screen print. They will feel exactly the same. And that is not in the ink, that is actually in the film.
Really?
So I've gotten some lately that I'm like, holy shit. Like, if I close my eyes right now, this is literally like I could not tell the difference. But unfortunately, on those particular films, I started seeing color shifts.
Yeah.
I started seeing lack of clarity, or I started losing some graphic acuity in my graphics. The ink loads weren't there yet, which tells me the film and the coating is at its infancy. It's getting there. So it's evolving, right? So I think this whole industry is evolving. And I think, the next thing that you're going to see, even from Mamaki, is going to be an expanded gamut printer, right? Which is going to have fluorescence and RGB and orange.
Yeah, I thankfully haven't run into too many customers asking for neon, but on the occasion that it did happen, you kind of run into the issues of it kind of being a duller kind of neon color. You're not getting that full highlighter effect that people want. So I think it's also just trying to explain to people, DTF is new and there still is a limit to what you can do.
Well, it's CMYK. You can only get so many colors. So typically so if I'm dealing with a customer or an end customer who's like, hey, what can you print DTF?
Yeah.
Then I go, great, set your Photoshop or your Illustrator up to CMYK colors.
Yeah.
And whatever color you can get using the swap CMYK, I can print that.
Yeah.
If it does not exist in swap CMYK, I can't print
it's
it.
Not possible.
It's
Yeah,
not possible.
So it was interesting kind of experience that, like knowing what to tell customers in regards to artworks or even, having limitations on how thin your lines can be, and, adjusting choke and, making sure you don't have that white bleed on the edges is all something that I just try to do to kind of keep my quality under control because I don't think when people, realize that DTF is printing, there's a white layer that goes behind it and you can have white peak and that it's like screen printing with your registration being off. And that's just not pretty for anybody. So, there's so many DTF printers. It's like, how do you really make yourself stand out in a sea of everyone's mom and dad having a DTF printer?
Well, that's one of the questions I was going to ask you. Like, Etsy has 8,000
TikTok.
TikTok. They have TikTok is a little different because they're selling design.
Yeah, that is true.
But Etsy is just selling the service. Like, you send us your design, we'll print it for you.
Yeah. And
they're doing it for 8 cents, and they're paying their staff 2 cents and no bathroom breaks. And how are you competing with that?
Yeah, so I think because originally my mindset when I first kind of came into this business was I don't have that kind of investment to really do more than beyond buy the printer. So I don't really run into that issue of like competing with the Etsy sellers. I think the biggest competitor is, can I name drop brands or is that frowned upon? No. Okay, well, competing with like the Ninja Transfers or like the TKO sales, it's how do you compete with these companies that can offer, fast turn times and, they have these big corporations and obviously people that are working for them. And it was just kind of like a 2-man show with me. So, it was really just going that extra mile for customers. And then, they would recommend me to their screen printing friends. So again, I think my kind of initial setup of just sticking with screen printers kind of helps me evolve into something bigger without having to compete much outside that pot. Because, when I got into the world of dealing with B2C consumers or just regular kind of outside consumers that weren't businesses, you get into more time-consuming processes like artwork not having corrections, and then that takes you however many hours to fix that. So I kind of have to hone in on my niche of sticking with screen printers and then just making sure my price wasn't too high, but I'm still making sure that I'm kind of profiting off of that and really just kind of being there for customers. I have people that will call me at 11 o'clock at night, and I don't mind too much now. I'm getting to my point where that might be like a little overwhelming, but I've drove to freaking Charleston, South Carolina, to help people get their orders out on time. If they were ever in a pinch, or if I messed something up, I would drive to make sure that I corrected it. So I think it's those little things of like customer service is really the key separator between you and all these DTF printers, and even catching mistakes in artwork. If you say, hey, like, did you mean to have this in your artwork? And there's like a speck of, today I had someone have an S that had a white line through it, and it's an accidental mistake through Illustrator. But it's just doing things like that. Like, I'm not going to print something and then they're going to be, hey, I have this in my artwork, let me reorder. It's just kind of doing things to prevent mishaps from my customers and for me. And I think people appreciate kind of you looking out for them in turn, and they kind of look out for you on the other end of that. So it's kind of been a lovely cycle of just doing what I can and my customer realizing that. And I think I've had a big kind of just loyalty around that. So
there is a ton that separates the difference between knowledgeable DTF printers and most anybody on Etsy.
Yeah.
Most of those people are literally just cranking out whatever you send them, whether it's at 300 DPI or 72.
Exactly.
They'll crank it out at without any half toning in it.
Yeah.
They'll crank it out with the
Pixelations.
The white border, the pixelations. I mean, it's just a mess. And, everybody's like, "Oh, you're being persnickety about the art you'll print and stuff." No, I'm not. It has to.
Yeah.
You want it to look right.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're just printing white.
Exactly.
But I think it's also, you get what you pay for, right? So,
yes, absolutely.
I think, all companies have to evolve into their niche. And I don't think anybody wants to compete with Walmart, right?
No.
Walmart already has that niche, right?
Yeah.
So if,
What is that niche?
Cheap and high volume.
Yeah.
Cheap, high volume.
And they may not always have what you
People
need.
that wear short shorts.
Oh, man.
With their whale tail thong hanging off the top.
Where? Where mullets are still strong.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, I think, I think we all have to figure out what our market is and then cater that market. But I think what you're singing to is what all small businesses carve out, how they do their thing, right? So, and that's either attractive to people or it's not.
Honestly, I don't know how far we are from wrapping up, but we should have them back to talk about some specific things with DTF art.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
It would be cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you come back and talk about the, what'd you call it, the white halo that comes out.
Yeah.
What did you call it?
The peak?
Yeah, the white peak.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times we ordered stuff, through Etsy providers before we bought our DTF machine that had it. And I was like, oh, we have a problem. And they're like, oh, well, that's the art.
And you're like, I did my art. I
did
know
the art.
That's not a problem.
Well, no, there actually is. And if you go on all of the chat boards and everything, there actually is an issue with Adobe and creating a PNG. And it's and for whatever reason, and it's not everywhere, and it's not every piece of art, but every once in a while it will create a 2-pixel semi-transparent halo around your artwork.
Oh wow.
And when you do that, so
but it's at 5%.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Yeah.
Right? So the only way you can see it is if you take your PNG and you really blow it up, then you can see these 2 pixels that are semi-transparent.
Yeah.
Well, so when you send that to the printer, right, the printer's like, oh, that's not color.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know what
right?
to do
I can't even print it, right? So there's no color.
Yeah.
But now for an underbase, it's going, well, we have to underbase it because there's color.
Yeah, exactly.
So you end up with now your halo or your peak, not because of the fact that you need to.
I guess we won't have them come back. We'll just talk about it now.
Yeah, I was like, we can go into it now.
We just do it now.
Why don't we just do it now? Why would we still?
I think we're going to do it now.
I mean, we can have them back, but
Yeah, I
we're not at the 3-hour mark yet.
Oh man. Yeah.
All right, come on.
Yes. Yeah. Well, my biggest thing that I noticed with DTF printers, and then I've had a couple of clients that have switched over to me, is that other DTF printers will allow a border to be around the artwork, and it wasn't just in regards to like PNGs. Some printers have the capability of printing like EPS files or AI, PDF, all those vector files.
So a lot of it is that it's Illustrator. That when you create a PNG out of Illustrator, it automatically puts that in.
But it could also be the printer's fault too, as well. So don't just always put the blame on the artwork. I know a lot of DTF printers will like to flip it on, the client and be like, "Well, that's your artwork." A lot of people, at least for the printer I have, you can adjust the choke setting, and I guess when the film goes through, it can shift, as it's moving through. So the alignment can sometimes be off. So you kind of have to account for a shift.
Not on the watch.
Really? So another reason. Film
does not move on a
Yeah. So the printer that I have to account for a shift in my, paper, especially when there's tension and it's going through the conveyor. So I have to account for that, when it's, I have to adjust the choke to be less. You don't have to do that. Yeah. Yeah. You have a newer printer than me, but yeah, I have to account for that.
Do you have to change out the gerbil once in a while? Or?
No,
just a few extra pots.
Yeah,
the wheel just keeps going.
But yeah, it's interesting because I've had screen print clients complain that they have like a registration. That's what they would call it. I think a registration around their artwork, and I'm like, that's just the choke. That's kind of needs to be adjusted, and that's kind of a printer thing. That's up to whoever's printing your transfers to kind of do that. So I think just kind of attention to detail with DTF transfers is a really big deal too, because I don't know if you've ever had artwork printed. It's kind of a different shade, but I know blues have been a trouble point for DTF printers, and I wanted to ask if that's a trouble point with the Mamaki printing blues or having the cyan kind of cap out for you. Has that ever been an issue?
What do you mean by cap out?
So I guess with the printer that I have, I've been told by text that the cyan can be like the first color to kind of start going or like fading. So you can notice a slight color difference.
Why would it fade?
Yeah, I guess they're saying just kind of duration of running it. It can kind of, I guess the lines that are feeding to the print heads can kind of maybe not push as much ink as they need to the print heads. And I was like, that sounds like a bunch of garbage to me.
It pretty much is.
But
I think that's a really convenient excuse for a known error within that particular printer.
Another reason to get them a Mamaki, people.
So yeah, no, that's not even a thing. I mean, it may be for your printer, right?
Yeah,
it may be for your brand of printer, but it's not.
Yeah.
And I will say that's a lot of the nuances. So I'm going to assume we have some sort of a Chinese printer.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So some of the nuances with the Chinese printers are they're not designed to be robust, right? They're just not.
And they're designed to be replaced.
Yeah. That is that's the unfortunate thing about I think the DTF market is they give you like a 6-month print head warranty, and they're like $1,500 a piece to replace. So, and I think you can't just replace one; you have to replace them all. So, depending if you have a 2-head or a 4-head, you have to kind of you have to have an emergency budget for print head replacement. Obviously, there's nothing stopping anyone from kind of going, aftermarket and getting their own print heads and not buying from their printer manufacturer. But I do kind of dislike the fact that I kind of feel like, I guess the printer companies have to make money somehow. But I think, building things to not last or, whatever is, I think it's kind of shameful. But I get that that's kind of just the industry, and that's what they've been doing. So
you also have to remember, I mean, they were the first ones in the market.
Yeah,
right? There was no market before the Chinese.
Yeah,
right? There just wasn't, right? So I don't think we can slam on them too hard. And they're the ones that are innovating.
Yeah,
right.
They're not bad. Yeah.
So, and what I mean by that is they are going to come out with stuff that no other manufacturer is going to come out with.
Yeah.
Right. Until the other manufacturers see that people actually want that.
Yeah.
Right.
Then they're
and then you're going to see the robust manufacturers go, okay, we'll implement that into our next version.
it's kind of like buying the first year of a new model car.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So, like when the new model or new shape first comes out, everybody's like, "Oh, it's neat," and, I want to buy it.
Yeah.
But they haven't worked out all the bugs, like the seats rattle, or the headrest is in a weird position, or whatever. And it takes them another year to figure that out,
Yeah,
a year
absolutely.
or two, and that's nothing. That's how all manufacturing things go.
Yeah.
That's the process.
DTF is definitely, I think, a new and evolving industry.
Oh,
Still,
100%
it's
it is.
very fresh. So, I think again another way that people can kind of differentiate between a good DTF printer and a bad one is also quality of consumables. I think you literally get what you put in.
True.
I probably need to follow that with my diet, but that's another topic. But inks and making sure you're having good film is another way to make you guys stand out from the rest of the crowd. And having a hot peel, let alone a 5-second hot peel, is the different thing. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the hot peel that you have to like rip off like a band-aid. Like you can't do a slow peel with it.
I am not familiar with that.
Yeah, because otherwise it doesn't come off the paper.
Yeah, it'll literally like you have to
It'll
like
stick half on there.
Yeah,
Really?
they'll literally.
That's a treat.
Yeah.
Try lining that back up.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, so it's kind of just adjusting with the curveballs that the kind of industry throws at you. New films, and obviously kind of scouting new people out to figure out, hey, maybe the manufacturer's not always right. I can kind of go elsewhere, and it's kind of like your parents like trying to scare you to not do drugs, and then they tell you not to put different inks in your printer.
Now you're just out doing drugs.
Yeah. So it's like maybe it's not that bad after all, and my print head is still here. So
hopefully your parents aren't watching either.
Sorry.
Okay, so where do you go for that though? So because I will say, if you're going to the Facebook groups for that can get scary.
Facebook, I stay away from. Like when I first got started into DTF, I was looking at Facebook groups, and you'll get one problem, and you'll have 1,000 people.
Solutions.
Exactly. So it's really trial and error with your own DTF printer, and you have to know like you're just gonna have to sometimes tear things apart and do it yourself. So I've become an electrician, a bodybuilder, all from just dealing with this machine. But it really is just kind of connecting with other people that have DTF printers, and Aaron honestly has been a great resource that I've been harassing about a lot of ththings, but you kind of just learn from experience.
Were you ever buying DTFs before you were printing your own?
No, never.
So that's the process we had.
Yeah.
So we bought DTFs, and then I was like, I don't like this vendor. Their product sucks. And when you're comparing products out there, everyone's comparing price, especially on Etsy and places like that. They're like, oh, well, I can get it for $5 here or $8 here. This is $3 less.
Yep.
I'm going to get it there. Well, the $5 one, it may or may not still be on the film when it gets to you.
Exactly.
It'll be in the bottom of your tube because it flaked off already.
Yeah, absolutely.
The $5 one will peel 90% of the way off, and 10% of it's still on your film. And then you got to line that thing up and try and get that 10% to come off without having the other 90% look horrible.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been traumatized by
Etsy.
Etsy.
I've just been through.
Yeah.
It's not just Etsy. I mean, anybody that is providing a Ninja transfers, like you said, we bought them from all kinds of places.
Yeah.
They all had that issue.
Yeah. I know like from the very beginning, and it's been a really hard lesson to learn, but temperature, humidity, it affects the entire process, just from like the film to the inks to how it prints. It's a really sensitive style of printing, and I don't know if screen printing
needs the powder flakes onto the off areas.
Exactly. Yeah. So you really have to be, I guess, just willing to kind of put in that time to test what works and what doesn't. And I think it's unfortunate for the people that have to kind of go through that learning curve. Thankfully, I haven't had too many complaints, but you learn like if your film is yellow, you're definitely over curing.
Yep.
Then that's going to lead to issues down the line. And even if you're really burning it, the back of the adhesive is going to be yellow at that point too. So it's a really fine-tuned process that people will kind of just say, oh, I know a DTF person, and they're 0.5 cents a square inch or whatever the price is, and it just you really get what you pay for, and it comes with knowledge as well.
Yeah, anybody that's at
Yeah,
those super low numbers is putting out the absolute minimalist stuff.
yep.
And they're
And
using the cheapest of films.
Yeah,
They're
and
probably
ink.
importing the inks from
Yeah.
China.
Yeah,
they're getting cheap,
Yep, and they're really cheap.
really
and,
coarse
powder.
powder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard because I think a lot of customers, especially when you look into I think screen printers have a little different output on the price. I think some are willing to pay for a better product, but a lot of people that you see on the B2C side of the regular consumer, they're really kind of just worried about that price tag and not the transfer. And if they don't need to have consistent customers coming back to them, that's different. You're making a shirt for Christmas that you just want once. But I think that's kind of where you can really start to carve out your own path as being a reliable DTF printer. And I think buying reliable inks, even trying ink from Aaron at first, I was skeptical because I was kind of programmed to know.
Dude, it's because you're getting a scare tactic.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying.
You can't put another ink in there. I'm like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah, but even before I brought the ink that he offers, of course it's not the same as my manufacturer, but it's just making sure you're looking at the quality of the ink that you're putting in to know that you're going to get something consistent out. So thankfully I haven't had any problems. So I can say unfortunately that scare tactic is false. So
What do you think the biggest? What's the thing you put the most weight in? I realize there's the main three things are ink, powder, and film.
Yeah.
What do you think makes the most difference?
With transfer quality?
Yeah.
I think it's knowledge of what the printer is actually doing, because you do have so many different variables that can cause your transfer to be crappy. So I think it's really just kind of making sure that your environment that you're printing in is at the right, requirements, and you're doing quality control and, actually testing stuff before you send it out. I think it's really, as long as you're buying good film, powder, and ink, there's really not much separating people besides customer service, because you're going to get a good transfer. But it then boils down to that curing process and how much time it has on the preheat table, and if it's actually touching the preheat table, because the steps that are happening all play a part in the final transfer. So it's, I think it's a really, I think it's a layered answer. It's like an onion, kind of. but I think the kind of the steps that you're putting into it matter the most outside of the film and the consumables. Because if you have an oven and you're not curing it right,
It's not going to matter if you do it wrong.
Yeah, you could have the best films and inks, and it's still, not proper curing time. You're not feeling so.
Yeah, I agree. I think process is probably the most significant. Clearly, if you're not curing things properly, it doesn't matter what you do.
Exactly.
It's not going to work.
But it doesn't matter how much you pay.
We have found that cheap film is by far the worst thing out there.
Yeah.
Because cheap film, because you can buy film for $60 a roll if you want.
Yep.
And if you're buying from Aaron, you're not buying it at $60 a roll.
Yeah.
Not that, and that's not a bad thing, because $60 a roll.
You get what you pay for.
Good luck getting the white off.
Yeah.
Whatever they put on there, that release agent that's on there, on that really cheap stuff, they don't use the stuff that makes white come off. And so nothing sucks like peeling a thing off and then having 3 letters missing.
Yeah. That pain is...
That's not good. That easy release film, that whatever they're putting on there,
it makes a difference.
That's straight from Disney's magic.
That is that it really is magical. I never thought when I first kind of started, I was like, I need to buy the cheapest products and that would keep my profit high. But you learn with DTF really fast, and I've never done that, but you learn fast that you really do get what you pay for, and I don't mind charging more because I know what I'm putting into my prints. So and I think my customers have learned to know you kind of have an expectation. So anyone else that they try, they kind of, are like at a bar of, well, they're hot peeling in 5 seconds. I can wash them X amount of times, and I don't see cracking. They're durable.
Yeah.
It's all those things that you kind of
Flexible.
look into. But I guess pressing time too can kind of impact your final transfer because you're pressing for too long. Can't you start to separate that release agent from the fabric, or do I have that backwards?
Most of the negatives that happen when you press too long, and this is, this goes into, some hot peels that they're a hot peel, but they have to, each press is 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So you're having a 10 to 15 second press, then a 10 to 15 second post press.
Yep.
So there's a double-edged sword to that, is when I'm pressing it that long, I'm basically remelting the adhesive.
Yeah.
Right? So the good thing that happens about remelting the adhesive is my print is really soft. You know why my print's really soft? Because there's no adhesive behind it.
Yeah, that's
right? The downside is now the adhesive actually gone into the fabric.
Now that you're wearing it.
So you can get, in screen printing, we call it strike through. Right?
Yeah.
But in DTF, what happens is when the adhesive goes into the fabric, you lose all of your washability. It'll wash out.
Yeah.
So you don't want that. Right?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
What you really want in a DTF is you want to, if I were to look under a microscope, you want a significant 3 layers of separation, right? The fabric is its own layer. The adhesive is its own layer. And the ink is its own layer.
Yeah.
Right? They're not intermingled, right? So a good DTF transfer is that adhesive sits perfectly between the ink and the fabric. The ink never touches the fabric.
Yeah. You want to see,
and that'll guarantee washability forever, right? Because that adhesive is just sitting there adhering onto the fabric.
Have you looked at DTF through a microscope on fabric?
I have. And I can tell you what good prints look like and bad prints.
I got to do that. I think that's really interesting to kind of really.
You can actually see it through a loop. So if you were to take, you don't really need a microscope, but if you were to get a high-powered loop and just cut a DTF transfer in half and just look at the side through a loop, you can see it.
Oh, okay. And I guess you go further of just cutting a shirt in half that has.
In fact, what I should probably do is do that, because there's actually an attachment you can have with an iPhone, and you can really just start taking pictures.
Yeah, that would be pretty
what that
cool.
Looks like under a loop. Here's what a good print looks like under a loop. Here's what a bad print looks like under a loop. But the reality of it is if you have a bad print, it's not like you're going to cut the shirt in half. See,
I know, yeah.
Let's get a side profile of that and see.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I do think there's a lot of information and maybe not so great information about DTF. So I do think it's kind of important to have reliable sources of information for DTF and something that educates consumers about it more, because there's so many people that are telling you what good DTF is and what good DTF isn't, and it's kind of like you just feel like you're in a cornfield with a bunch of different things and nowhere to really see a clear answer. So I think it's cool to do things like this. Yeah.
Well, dude, I can actually empathize.
Yeah.
And here's why I'm empathizing is there are even screen print suppliers that claim to know all about DTF suppliers that seem to know all about DTF and really present themselves as incredibly knowledgeable DTF people, right? And that's actually not the case.
Yeah.
In fact, they give horrible information.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because if again, this is an emerging market. If I'm a DTF printer, I'm getting into DTF. Where do I go? Who do I trust?
Yeah.
Who actually knows what the hell they're talking about? Who doesn't, right? Who is just out there marketing themselves and who's actually knows something about it, right?
Exactly.
It's very confusing. It's not like, screen printing is a very developed market. It has developed suppliers. It's got manufacturers and suppliers that have been in it for a really long time, right? So those manufacturers in general are fairly trusting. Suppliers as a whole, same problem, right? Yep. You've got some suppliers that are just out there to sell you stuff, and you've got other suppliers that actually know what they're talking about.
Yep.
And those two are tough to differentiate, right? Between who knows something and who doesn't. But unfortunately, when you're dealing with an emerging market, it's even harder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I do empathize in that plight, but
Yeah.
trust me, there is a few of us out there that actually know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Sounds like we found you the next entrepreneurial thing.
I know,
The
right?
DTF knowledge guy.
Yeah. Well, because,
the DTF educator.
the problems you run into when you kind of first start using your DTF printer, you ask Google, and you really only have like a bunch of other DTF printers that are trying to kind of sell you their transfers at the bottom of the page after you read their article. So there's really not a lot of help guides. So you kind of really have to become your own
You gotta
knowledge
do your own
source.
research,
Yeah.
and testing, and
So exactly. You really have to just kind of be your own troubleshooting guide. So I think it's a really interesting industry because, the screen printing, you have so many forums and people, telling you to do this and that. And DTF, it's kind of, that big one company that's kind of in control of that Facebook group. And then, that's kind of the extent of your help you get. But it's interesting kind of seeing, the side of the manufacturers also being the seller of the consumables, and then kind of seeing how they interact with their clients. It's very, you kind of just feel like it's, man, like I didn't know I was that much of a money pocket for you guys. So it's definitely been an interesting kind of eye-opening experience overall, just in regards to, being 23 and trying to run a business and, being immersed into, maybe not everyone is as, trusting as they lead off to be, and you kind of have to learn that the hard way or the good way. But it definitely is it gives you a layer of thick skin and kind of just a third eye of like a bullshit detector, honestly. So you kind of start to learn what's kind of true and what's not, and you can gauge what someone knows just by hearing them open their mouth about their printer. So
well, I will say it's been great having you on, and I will say from someone who, listening to someone's going from the very beginning, it kind of rejuvenates the blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of fun to hear, oh yeah, that's what it was like, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool to hear someone new getting into it and getting going. And hey, I got to tell you, I'm really excited for you. I think you've got phenomenal things coming. You've got,
hopefully,
you literally have the world ahead of you. And the sheer fact that you've been doing what you've been doing in such a short amount of time, I think is really impressive.
it's a great story.
Well, thank you.
Great story.
Thank you. Yeah, I've come a long way from a garage of my apartment that I should not have been in. So, but yeah, and it's also a pleasure getting to talk to you guys and hear you guys, your story. I didn't know I forgot you sold cheesecakes. So it's funny just to hear kind of how everyone kind of got their origin story. Thanks for having me on. It's been a blast.
We definitely should have you back. Talk about artwork stuff and DTF.
I'd love to, because that was my biggest headache. So
yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love to do that. That's a good topic for the future.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Well, awesome. Well, hey, I wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I wish everybody out there a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah.
Even though these guys aren't too jolly.
Do you have the time to listen to me whine about nothing and everything all at once? I am one of those melodramatic fools.